and then also give Lisa a few more minutes to check in as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, welcome to this TSBOC Open Call. I'm Rich Waterman. That's Chris Joseph. That's the intro's done, isn't it?
Yeah.
We should say who we are, shouldn't we, really? For anyone that's watching the video afterwards. Do you want to go first, Chris, or me?
Go on, Rich. Booty before brains.
I went to Oxford University. That's the only response to that, isn't it, really?
I didn't get into Cambridge.
10 years in the investment bank, miserable as sin. Started running my own businesses. Started doing Tony Robbins 13 years ago, and been a part-time coach ever since, and a full-time one since 2000 and I think 5 years now, in 2014. I'm not a doctor, unlike Chris, although he's not a proper doctor. He's a different sort of doctor. So don't have any heart attacks on the call. Been running my own one-to-one coach practice properly since 2014, and really struggled for the first 6 months, and struggled to some degree for about 18 months because I basically had some mentorship from my good friend Dave Taylor, who I'll say hello to, but he was relatively new to the game as well, and the prosperous coach, and then tried to work out by myself, really. So that hence what arose from that was training Chris as a coach many years ago, and then passing on what business knowledge I was picking up, and then he picked that up and ran with it himself, and co-coaching for the last few years has been dramatically beneficial for both our businesses. So we started running a TSBOC Mastermind, Seek Business Coaching Masterminds, just over 2 years ago now. Original was a 1-year program, which Deb, Linda, and Manoj were on. Manoj isn't with us tonight. And then a 6-month program, TSBOC 2, which was when Dave and Peter arrived. And then TSBOC 3, the cherry on the cake, Sam Wilds joined the group. Happy days. Increased the beard power dramatically. And very excited. Really love the masterminds. Love the live days we do. Excited about the online course that we're about 95% done. Go on then, Chris. You can talk about yourself a bit now. Was it the brains bit? Was it brains or beauty? I can't remember now. It's like both, isn't it?
I won't say anything more. Welcome to anybody watching this call after this live recording. I think background briefly, academia, kind of safe there, right in the ivory tower, all the way to PhD level. That was the bit that broke me. Decided to look for a different way in life, and explored some things, mindfulness being a significant one, and also coaching. So learned the basics from Rich, and then, as you said, kind of took those basics a little further myself. No, I'm being intentionally disrespectful. Rich helped me a lot at the beginning, and kind of run with it. And 10 years, I would say, coaching, but probably 5 years really going for it pretty much full time. I do have some other work which is finishing soon, but largely full time for the last 4 or 5 years. And as Rich said, Rich gave the outline TSBOC. No need to repeat that. Looking forward to this call.
Good stuff. Lisa, do you want to give the rest of the group a bit of background on you?
Yep. So I've got a background in HR, really, a bit of a mixed variety to my career, but definitely a key theme was all around transformation, working with people, helping people, developing people. So I came out of HR in November of last year. I did an apprenticeship with Michael Serra. Through one of his coaches, I found Chris, and that's kind of how, in brief, I suppose, I've ended up here in this group today. I've dabbled with different coaching schools. I've done the open days with the coaching academy. I've done a little bit more training with CTI, but very much just found my feet through coaching, just practicing and practicing and practicing. And yeah, love it. Absolutely love it. So I'm working as a coach now. I've got a number of clients. I am working with executives, and I'm taking on like apprentice coaching clients as well. So very much just like love being in this space, love immersing myself in this world, and just like hugely passionate and enthusiastic to bring that to other people as well. And that's
Cool. Brilliant. I think given that Lisa's currently temporarily in Scotland at the moment, we should pass it on to Linda Thompson. Because that gives us everyone time to get used to your accent and Linda as well, get warmed up.
So I'm Linda. Gosh, it's hard to know what to say about yourself in these few minutes. I'm going to work backwards, a little bit. Is that I'm currently working for a substance misuse charity, so I'm doing a lot of stuff around developing and delivering training for people going through that journey. I've been dipping my toe in coaching and keeping on not taking the actions that I should be taking. So this is my kind of third shot into TSBOC, and keeping on moving towards that ultimate aim of working as a coach full time. Done a lot of things in the last number of years, really get into kind of personal development. 2002 with Tony Robbins, and went through that whole journey. I'm a Tony Robbins trainer and been done that for about 6 years, which is really where I got interested in, first of all, personal development, but then as I went through I don't know how familiar you are with Tony Robbins, if you've done any of his stuff, but I started coaching in that arena, and that's, I've never spent enough effort as making it into the full-time gig, and with these two guys and learning how to do that more effectively. And one day I'm going to properly listen to what they tell me.
When would now be a good time to do that?
Yeah, it's annoying, isn't it? Yeah, seeing another Tony Robbins trainer making loads of money, isn't it? Just from coaching, but that's all good. Right, who wants to go next? Should we do ladies first again? Dave? No, sorry, Deb.
Carry on, Dave.
Dave hasn't got his wig on. He can't. Go on, Deb.
I think he's frozen there. So hi, I'm Debbie and Debs, and I've been coaching for a couple of years. Started with Chris and Rich at the very beginning of TSBOC. I met Chris originally. Actually, in yoga is where we first met. I was doing some mindfulness training with him and kind of progressed into coaching. And prior to that, I had trained as a hypnotherapist back in 2010. Had my own practice for a few years, but then found myself moving into the world of med tech, basically, IT, health, digital platforms, business development. And my checkered career started in nursing, and then went into pharmaceutical sales. So I've kind of had a bit of a path along the way, which has been good fun in some ways and not in others. And I think I've been input into personal development since I was in my late teens, and I think kind of have my own journey sort of personally, but sort of crashed and burned, and then got more into this in really about 2008, I think. So and I have I'd say my clients, I don't have many clients at the moment, but the ones I have had have been from the startup environment, and more recently moving into people in the medical field, which kind of, I kind of understand a lot about. So and it's fab. So and this is where I want to be full time.
Just
So if my boss does watch this at some point, sorry Vic, but you know it's
Right then, boys, if Manoj was here, he'd politely sort of order you all up, but he'd not have to let you fight over it. Who's going to go next? Go on, Peter. You're next on my little group of pictures, even though I'm probably not the same as everyone else's. But
okay, fair enough. Right, I'm Peter. I'm an accountant by trade, which is kind of vaguely my day job. So I've got an accountancy practice up in Yorkshire here, where I employ about 20 people altogether, 10 in the UK, 10, 15 in India, where we do our processing. And my kind of coaching journey started off in well, I started off in self-development with Stephen Covey, as I think most people seem to do somehow. And then moved on to NLP. So I did NLP practitioner, NLP master practice. I didn't certify on that, but I did the groundwork, if you like. Then I moved on, a bit like you, Lisa. I did the coaching academy. So I did personal performance and small business diplomas with them. And I'm now with Michael Neal Super Coach Academy, which I'm doing at the moment. Probably got about 5 coaching clients, something like that. Yeah, that's about me, I think.
modest as well.
Modest.
That's just a thought, though, Peter, of course. We have this 3 Ps joke, just so you know, Lisa. If anything comes up, we say it's just a thought. Right. Sam's next to my group of peeps.
Unless it fits into a wheelbarrow, though, Rich. And then
That's true. That's not a thought.
In theory, I should be last, because
you were last to come
if we
in.
go by ladies first, then it should be the most manly last.
All right, Dave, go on then.
Sam Wilde, I love you and your beard, because I felt it and it feels wonderful. I'm Dave. I am a podiatrist, a mentor, a public speaker, and now a coach. I'm actually at some point going to be mentoring Rich on public speaking as well, because he does show promise. I started life in healthcare as well as a nurse and A&E nurse, and then went into podiatry for various reasons. And after having a fairly traumatic 2015 when my wife threw me out of the house, I got into personal development really to sort out what was going on up here. And it was it 2017 that I met you, Rich? Yeah, it's 2017. Went to an event where this very unassuming guy in a Toyota appeared, and then started lecturing and talking to a group, and he was very different to the environment he was in, and instantly gelled with him. We also found out we got the same birthday, which was really cool. And we're both very similar ages, except he's much older. And it was just a really, really nice connection. And then what Rich did is later on that year, he put out a little note saying, I'm looking for people to work with to one-on-one, mentoring, coaching. And I just went, you know what? Coaching is where I want to go. And we connected, and it went from there. So I got into TSBOC 2, which felt massively out of my depth at the time. And since then, I've gone from being a podiatry business owner with an interest in coaching to now selling my podiatry practice and spending time teaching and educating podiatry students, building my coaching practice, doing a lot of social media and social media training for podiatrists. But the thing which has really jumped out has been the amount of speaking which I'm starting to do. And it's all come from doing the inner work and the development and hanging around with these cool people. And it's been absolutely fantastic. In fact, I've just had something go up this week that I'm speaking at an event in Birmingham in May and getting paid for it, which is quite nice.
Awesome.
Only a modest amount, but I'm happy with that. I'm speaking on how to raise practice profits, which makes me chuckle a lot because it's just not my sphere at all, but I'm going to put the Dave spin on it. So I'm here because of starting the inner work and being around people who've helped me to really grow and develop what's in here. And turn up as me authentically on a day-to-day basis, and it's very cool. It's very cool. And despite Sam going after me, I am far more manly than he is. Come on!
I can't argue with that, Dave.
What about Manoj?
He's just a thought.
Isn't manoj?
Can you put manage in a wheelbarrow?
Yeah.
Definitely.
2 managers in a wheelbarrow while hiding in a sack.
Go on, Sam. Cheers, Dave.
Hi guys. So yeah, I'm Sam. Hi Lisa, and welcome to the group, by the way. Yeah, my story started. Well, it started 35 years ago when I was born. But coaching-wise, I've been full-time now for, well, it's January 2018. I kind of decided to stop my personal training business overnight and just go all out on coaching, which at the beginning felt like a huge mistake because I completely screwed up with the amount of money I needed to make. But it was great because it actually kind of put me in a position of discomfort, which allowed me to kind of really grow as a coach. So I'd never had, before TSBOC 3, which started last October?
Yeah, probably
I've
October.
never done any coaching courses, still haven't apart from TSBOC. Never had any coaching really, apart from obviously the coaching that we had, Chris, together at the very beginning when we started to talk. I still can't remember how that occurred. My promiscuous youth has screwed up my short-term memory, so I cannot remember how that happened. I think we started a conversation somewhere along the line. And as I was going through, like last year, I won't go too much about the backstory, but going through last year, I went to Shape Your Destiny event, which is where I met you, Rich. And, you know, you'd suggested that you kind of seen me around and thought, you know, he seems all right. Not a bit of all right, just all right as a coach.
Good to stand.
And, well, I can't confirm that you didn't think that, obviously. But then obviously we started talking. Chris invited me to some conversations and invited me to TSBOC. And if I'm honest, at the time, because for me, I've got this beautiful curse of just going for it and just putting myself in a position where I'm just going to learn by making complete hash of everything. And that's kind of how I've always kind of lived my life, just making as much of a hash of things as I can and learning the fun way. And yeah, so it wasn't until I came across TSBOC that really I had my first experience of what it's like to be coached in a group. And it's just been so transformational for me as a person. And obviously my practice, because I'm very similar to you, Liz. It sounds like we're in a similar place. I have a couple of apprentices for coaching, and I coach kind of business owners and entrepreneurs for the most part. And yeah, that's me. That's where I'm at. And by the way, you can't call those 2 beards. They're not. That's just fashionable stubble. Give us some more length.
That's no way to talk to Linda, Sam. Stop it.
I was hoping someone would bite, and they did. Thanks, Dave. So work along, Lisa.
There we go, Linda's sorted. Thanks, Sam. Cool. Thought we'd chuck some topics around, really. Lisa, is there anything particular that you'd like to bring into this group? I know obviously we've been talking about various things over the last couple of months, but is there anything that would be worth throwing around that would spring to mind in terms of useful things to talk about? Well, you said putting you on the spot.
Yeah, they probably will. They'll probably come to me as the conversation kind of evolves.
Yeah.
But I guess just the usual things, you know, like the best ways to create clients, to serve clients. Like I just love hearing other people's experiences as well, because I love to learn from what other people have gone through. Like if you've had objections, you know, how you've overcome those objections. I've never really come up against the objections where people have had to check with their other halves or their family members.
Yeah.
So I guess that could be a good topic for me. As my fees go up, I'm sure that's going to become more of an issue. Or more of not an issue, but just a challenge to kind of help people overcome. So maybe that could be a good topic for me. I'm definitely keen to hear more about speaking, because it's something that I don't really do at the moment. I've done workshops and things to kind of develop a client base myself from there, but it's just really low level, you know, meetup group workshops, nothing kind of on a big stage or anything like that. And I guess curious to hear about the apprenticeships as well, in terms of how you would structure them and what you would do in that space.
Yeah. Okie dokie.
Just off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's a few things. Yeah, that's all good. So I've got creation, service, objections, other halves. I've got apprenticeship down, speaking down as well. Okay, we'll make sure we cover all that.
Thank you.
All right. Chris, from mate, I'm gonna kick off with creation stuff actually, because I think that's the nub of it. It's like, it's an interesting one that I'll chuck a few things out there and see what everyone else thinks as well. I find that coaching businesses go through cycles, and when you're first starting out relatively early on, you have relatively few leads. You kind of get through them quickly, and then there's this gap. Then you might get a few more, then you get another gap, and you get a few more. It just happens to be that with having a few other things on my plate and literally just flying all my leads through to a conclusion very quickly, I'm actually now in a space where I've only really got a couple of leads. And I was reflecting on how it feels now to look to create more clients. Although, to be fair, I don't need that many in the practice, but it's always good to have more. How it feels now to how it felt at the start or early on, and that's something Chris and I were talking about today. And first of all, it's a recognition that there is this ebb and flow. That's pretty normal. And the second piece is then to say, well, what are the hardest bit about coach business by far, in my opinion, is creating quality connections, creating quality leads, if you will. The other bits, whether it's service, whether it's proposing, whether it's dealing with objections, whatever that is, I think that is orders of magnitude more easy once you get it. And it does take a bit of work to get it, to be fair. So I'm always looking at that first piece, which is creation of clients. Ultimately starts with, if you can create some really, really high quality connections and a number of them, it just makes the whole game really easy. And then for me, I know we talked about this a little bit before, Lisa, it's about finding that flow space. Like, what is that? What are those activities that you absolutely adore doing that is going to give your target demographic, and as we now, with the help of Chris, psychographics, so how people think as well, but your target audience, how do you give them a quality experience of you? And that, for me, that's where speaking comes in, because like Dave, and actually, to be fair, Linda as well, who I've seen speak, and now Chris, he seems to have come up the curve now with a bit of help from me. Saw him speak at Yes Cardiff. Speaking for me, it works really, really well, because it is in essence, what we're looking for is to give people a quality experience of you. And speaking, because I like doing it and I find it easy, enables me to give a group at once an experience of me that is hopefully pretty unique in their life. So it gives me an opportunity for them to think, hold on a minute, this is a bit different. I might need some of this. I'll probably stop there. It's like, for me, the speaking piece is you just got to look for opportunities, whether it's, Dave, getting known in the industry, whether it's approaching people that are running events and say, if I can't speak for you this time, I'd love to speak for you next time. Going to networking events, speaking at personal development groups, whether it's, Shape Your Destiny's, Ben's toned that down a little bit, but, yes groups around the country, and other similar type groups. I find it very effective, and equally, it might not be the way that is the most effective for you, or naturally in flow state for you as well. One of the things that I think I'd love to do is, I'll let Chris obviously have his say now, but some of the others in the group talk about ways that they've created high quality connections. I think it'd be very useful, because I think I'm fair to say, looking around the group, there's many different ways that you've done it. Right, I'm going to shut up now and let Chris have his say, otherwise it'll be 8:30 and turn it off.
I'll cover the one. I won't repeat what Rich said, but I'll cover the one on dealing with partners. That question you had there. There's 5 sales in coaching that I picked up off Rich Litvin in intensive I went to in Santa Monica last October. And the 5 sales, the first sale is sale of coaching in and of itself, which it's great. If talking about apprenticeships, if you've got a coach, you're working with a coach, that's fantastic, because they've obviously made the sale of coaching to themselves already, because they wouldn't be in the game, right? So that's a key one. Also, to be fair, I think it's American clients and maybe also Canadian clients and so on. they are ahead of us with the adoption of coaching. So there's definitely a difference there. I think with the door being a bit more open to that taking on that service. But it is changing in the UK as well, for sure. So that's the first thing, the sale of coaching to themselves. Second one is the sale of the initial conversation. Third one is the sale that we think of primarily, which is the proposal, the coaching proposal. And the fourth is the sale to partner, whether that's business partner or a personal partner. And the fifth is the resale, or sometimes called buyer's remorse. Now, there's a lot I could say about every one of those, and Rich and I have recorded a video on this in TSBOC online, and you get access to that in time. But the fourth one there, the sale to the partner, the thing that's important there is once you serve a client, or whether it's over a session or multiple sessions, and you've made the proposal and it's landed, and then they say, okay, I need to speak to my partner. The first thing is, what I say certainly is that yes, you should. Of course you should. That's very important to do that, whether it's business partner or personal partner. But the question I like to ask is, I say, look, putting aside the conversation that you should definitely have with your partner, putting that aside for a second, what shows up for you? What is it that you want to do? And what it does, it just clears that air, gives that person permission to speak their truth in the moment. And it might be that, I'm not sure about it. But what you are going to get, or it might be, well, yeah, for me, it's a hell yes. So what you're going to get is a more authentic answer in that moment, rather than just leave in that space, they go away. And often what I ask them as well is, how are you going to communicate with your partner? Because your partner obviously hasn't been at this session or the sessions we've had. How are you going to speak with your partner? How are you going to communicate with them your vision, the work that we discussed that we're going to work on as part of your coaching contract? So I would then, out of genuine service to that client, if they are hell yes to the coaching, then they want to be able to enroll their partner as well in it. So I will coach them on that process of enrolling their partner in their vision of what they want to do. Could say more. I think it's enough actually on that one. Yeah.
Well done, Chris. So promise, mate.
Get there.
I'll very quickly talk about apprenticeships, and then I think you, Chris, you talk about it as well, and then I think I'll let the rest of the group talk about whatever aspects they want to, really. But for me, apprenticeships almost became inevitable because it was, I wouldn't feel totally comfortable running an apprenticeship unless I start to get some progress in my coaching. But interestingly, going from no clients to some clients is actually a massive step. That step alone justifies an apprenticeship, because you can actually, you've been closer to the coalface there, and it's like, I don't dismiss the fact that how I think now versus 3.5, 4, 5 years ago is completely different. And that's one of the things that came up with when Chris and I were talking today is, we've learned a lot, and so we can actually sort of move ourselves out of what would otherwise been very disempowering situations, because we've got experience of getting through it. And your experience, Lisa, just of going from no clients to some clients, and then the sort of level of clients you're now getting, that definitely justifies looking at apprenticeships. I tend to focus more on outcomes. So what is it? What do you want to get? What do you want to get out of this apprenticeship, full-blown apprenticeship? Often we might focus it on building their business to a six-figure income, 100 grand a year plus income, because I know what that game looks like, and so if someone says I want to do that, then I'm very clear about what they've got to bring to the table and also what we've got to create. And equally, from my own development, also sort of seeing Chris's own business develop as well, I've got a pretty good idea what 20 grand a year, 30 grand a year, 50 grand a year, and so on looks like. So I don't tend to focus too much on detail when I'm talking about an apprenticeship. It's more like, well, what do you want to create? And let's get you there. Now, the content has become massive amounts easier in Chris and our case, is creating this online course, which we've done as content pieces on a Trello board, says little cards with all different things. What I do, and I'm sure Chris does as well, is I create a duplicate of that board now and say that this is the playing field. This is the stuff we could talk about. I don't tend to systematically work through it, but I say, look, we've got 4 key areas, which again was something Chris came up with. We've got your development as a coach. We've got your development of the clients you want to work with and the client avatar potentially. We've got the service between you and that client. And then we've got the proposal piece. We've got four key bits that we're going to work on. And actually something we've been recording today on the online course is a 5th piece, which is kind of the business management, business development / turning pro sort of piece, which are more the sort of finer bits and pieces. So I don't tend to go into too much detail in terms of what's being covered, but I talk more about the principles about where we're going to go in an apprenticeship. Chris, you got asked that specifically, didn't you? So I think that's a good chance for me to hand that back to you in terms of what you've done.
Yeah, I'll say a few words and then we'll open it to the rest of the group here. I got asked by my second apprentice, can you send me through a sheet that gives me the structure of the apprenticeship? I said, no, I won't be doing that. You're the agenda. And as Rich said, yes, the principles at play here. And we'll be looking at things like, your own inner development. Peter will talk about 3 Ps, I'm sure, in a second. And the inside out approach is key, I think, to every single person in this group. Well, I know it is because they wouldn't be in the group otherwise. So that inner development is really important. So there's that as a principle. But in terms of, so there's the inner development, there's the client, as Rich said, the client, the avatar and the psychographics around the client you're going to be working with, and we'll cover psychographics more, I'm sure, at a later date. And then there's the how you serve them, and then there's a proposal. But other than that, I don't really give any more detail. I think there's a few things to call out with apprenticeships. The fact, Rich is spot on, once you've started to create your own clients, and you're certainly creating clients at a higher and higher level, like working with CEOs as you are, I think you've definitely got something to offer a new coach, definitely. And in fact, sometimes because, you're not, one of the things I not struggle with, but I could be mindful of, if I'm not so much with the apprenticeships that I now take on, because they're already probably at about kind of $10,000, $15,000 mark client creation themselves. But certainly, if I'm speaking with coaches who are earlier on in their journey, I've got to take myself further back to where I was at that stage, because you just forget how much water's passed under the bridge. So if you are just those couple of years ahead of that person, that's easier, I think, to offer, to remember where they are actually at in terms of your own journey. And just coach the person. There's 4 real levels there. You go coaching them as an individual. You've got mentorship, which comes in when they are a coach. You've got supervision. They can bring their own client question to the table. And then you've got the actual business side of coaching. So it's kind of 4. And also, I suppose, business side of coaching and coaching skills as well. So you could actually argue there's 5 elements there. And that's enough of a structure, really. I think coaching is not a commodity. And as soon as you try and commoditize it and package it into a neat program with 12 stages, then you, at one level, you appeal to the left brain of that person and the order and the structure. But another level, you just miss the whole thing completely. You miss the artistry of it. You miss the depth of it. You miss the ability to flow and to play and to drop into deep coaching, into flow, into questioning thought, into Byron Katie's work or whatever it is, and then simultaneously back out into form, into strategy, and so on. So there's that whole arena that you lose if you try and box things and try and structure it too much. So yeah, just be aware of that question. What is it exactly we're going to be doing? And rather than you putting the certainty on the table by, trying to guess and hypothesize what this person actually needs 6 months from now, because that's what they're asking. Extract it from them. What is it that you think you need as a structure? Get them to write their own program and agenda. And it'll always change as well, session by session. One of the favorite quotes I love from Peter is a Michael Neal one, and that is, show up and deal with what shows up. If you coach from that space, then you're going to get far more impactful results than if you go in with a preformed agenda, expectations, and so on.
I'll tell you what, mate, it probably would have been easy just to come up with a syllabus, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Neither one of us can be asked to do that. That's the truth behind it. And if you go in with all the bullshit I've just said, then you haven't got to do any work.
It's so dynamic, though, isn't it? It's such a dynamic process, and I wrote that down. Actually, what you said, I agree very much. Is coaching the individual so that it lands, because it is a significant amount of the coaching. And we and Chris talking about each other businesses. There's still a significant amount of coaching in there. Mentoring, stuff that you've done. Supervision is massively useful. What do you think? Supervision, actually, I always thought it would be help, giving some input on, I've got this client, where do you think I should go with it? Or they presented this problem, have you got any ideas? Actually, supervision has probably shown up more for me in terms of, I've got this potential client and this has happened. Can you give me some ideas? So it's almost like I'm supervising the coach in terms of their next interaction with a potential client rather than an actual client. And coaching skills and biz stuff always shows up as well. Right, enough of us twittering, Chris. Shall we hand it over to the team? I know we haven't talked about service that much. I think that's going to be a natural. I think we would be remiss not to mention 3Ps and the stuff you've been doing, Peter, and do that. But whether you want to go first or let the ladies go first, it's entirely up to you.
I don't mind. Do the ladies want to go first?
No, you go, Peter.
Oh, lovely.
You're in the centre of my screen.
So Linda and Deb.
Linda. So.
Right. Oh,
you're in the centre of each other's worlds. How lovely.
Linda and Deb's are always this polite, aren't you?
Yeah, right.
A separate breakout room.
Go on, then, Pete.
Yeah, no. So, I don't know how much you know about the 3Ps, Lisa. Have you been there at all? Done anything there, or?
Yeah, I've not really done any kind of deep dive into them, but I do understand about the 3Ps. Yeah.
Okay, because I'm doing Supercoach Academy with Michael Neal, which is basically a 6-month training program around coaching using the 3Ps. Chris seems to be laughing here. I'm not sure.
Sam is winding. Sam is setting me up here. I'm not, Peter. No, I'm not. Apologies.
But take responsibility, Chris. That's all I'm going to say. Right, carry on, Peter.
I was looking at Sam. I wouldn't be looking at Sam. I'm going to put a post-it note over his face.
I feel this is unfair.
Carry on.
Part of Chris's coaching skills. Stick a post-it over anything you don't want to look at. Go on, then, Peter.
Come on, carry on.
I don't know what you want me to say, really. What do you want me to say about
it? I kind of be intrigued. Like, so one, if I'm correct in saying, Lisa, you're asking a bit about serving people, and I think that's something that's come up very strongly in conversations that you've had with the group and also with me, Peter, in terms of that depth of service that you've experienced through your sort of the recent.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll tell you how it. I mean, there's a ton of theory behind 3Ps, and really it's about how it talks to you, and the way it talks to me. There's two major parts the way that it talks to me. One is that most people think the world's real, and yet the world is made up of thought, which isn't real. And there's coaching using that. I mean, Chris sort of alluded to it, that there's a science and an art towards it. And the science is around that it's the truth. This is the way human beings operate. That we're tuned into an intelligent system called mind, the same system that kind of makes grass grow and makes our finger heal when we're cut or whatever. And that sort of creates our inner wisdom, which guides us when we listen to it. But most people kind of get up in their heads, and personal thought comes into it, which generally guides us away from inner wisdom. So it seems to me a large part of the coaching around here is pointing people to this fact that the world is largely created by the personal thought which they think is real. And so for me, when I'm coaching, it's pointing people in that direction, which is great, but getting people to see it is the art of it, and that's very much a different thing. So I know that the 3 principles are the truth of how human experience works, but people see their thoughts as such a deep reality that it can be very difficult to shift people. The other thing I talk about is the level of consciousness. So if we see the world as being for us or the world as being against us, then we tend to have a very different experience of the world. That's kind of in a brief nutshell. I mean, it's one of those things that seems very simple and straightforward, but people who've been in the field for 40 years are still having insights into different things. And I mean, Michael Neal talks about these 3 things. One of them is tapping people on the shoulder and just seeing as they wake up to the I don't know what you say, the opportunities that are there, and the other is just to see people see the creations that are available once we can see that. And the third one's completely escaped me. I can't remember what the third point was that I was going to make, but I probably spoke long enough. That's a brief kind of outline as to how I see 3 principles coaching as being, but it's very much about, I mean, I've had a coaching session with Michael Neal today, and he was talking about it's very much just about how you see it. It's not about how anyone else sees it, and there's a very wide range. I mean, I've put guys in this group, I'm not sure who's looked at it, I think Sam has, around Garrett Kramer, who looks at things quite differently as a 3 principles person. So there's quite a wide range around it, but I think that's a bit of an introduction as I see it.
It's very much, Peter's. I think what I love about some of the work there is it's often not dealing with what the client is presented either. It very, very quickly gives you an opportunity to dig deeper behind. That's what I call deep service or true service, as opposed to doing what I call more the at-surface coaching that is quite prevalent, particularly the UK market, actually, where it's just like set a goal, work on the goal, set another goal, work on that goal. It's a little bit, you never really dig.
Yeah, it's about going upstream to the formless rather than the form, if you like. So it's looking at, clients will typically present content, and it's going upstream to look at what that's about. So, someone may typically present something about a relationship, shall we say, and then going upstream, you may look at relationships generally, and it's almost like right at the top of the stream, if you like, is the 3 principles around mind, thought, and consciousness, and you're generally leading clients or teaching clients, if you like, as to where their experience of relationships, for example, a particular relationship will be related to their general experience of relationships, but typically then you'll be going up to thought. That relationship will be thought created, and generally when people see that things are actually thought created, that they lose the power, and they see that new thought is there to be created. But most of us are caught up in old thought, and when our minds settle down, then new thoughts allowed to arrive.
Nice one. So any of the remaining four, have you got any, want to add any thoughts either on service or client creation or objections or apprenticeships or speaking?
Yeah, I have, if you don't mind me sharing.
Yeah, we'll go Sam, then we'll go Dave, put his hand up.
Kind of ties in nicely with what Peter was saying, about thought and 3Ps, because, you guys know I'm very similar to Peter, I love deep diving into the kind of truth behind things. And Lisa, you were sort of mentioning around sort of service and apprenticeships and stuff, and it all, to me, because I was talking to my apprentice, really, really good timing. I was talking to him about this morning, and he was sort of saying he feels like he's really showing up to client sessions at the moment and teaching, and kind of just feel like he's constantly teaching. And when we kind of, we know as coaches generally that when the client presents a problem, it's not the problem. There's something else going on deeper, or there's a misunderstanding. So which is all we do, we just pointed into that misunderstanding. And for me, coaching and apprenticeships, whatever, client creation, it all comes down to creativity and creative thinking and fun, and this kind of, like, you guys know about lightness and me and lightness. And so they're all so inextricably linked with slowing down enough with a client and creating enough space that all these things become not just probable or possible, but absolutely definite. Because we are creative people and human beings. And so when we really serve someone, and that for me is what service truly means, it's getting out of the coach getting out of their way enough that they're not in a place of teaching, but they're in a place of just such deep service that that client feels as though anything is possible because they realize that it is. So I think, what we're talking about, Peter, is very similar in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just picking up on that, Sam, it's around, coaching for me is around getting out of your own way and letting mind work through you. And the more we get out of our own way, the more effective coaches we are. So we don't have any agenda, we don't have any fixed outcome as to what we want for our clients. We're getting out of our own way and kind of letting the magic work through us. We're a catalyst for change, if you like. We're, it's not our job to change clients. That's the sort of magic that works when we're fully present with them by getting out of our own way. That's what seems to be to me. And
there was a saying from Steve Hardison recently, I think I've shared with the group, and it's to get peace of mind, we drop thought, and then to create in the world, we make up thought. So thought being that tool that has, has that double edge to it. And I've talked about that as self-development 1.0. And the self-development 2.0 is sitting back from the whole thing and seeing the whole dynamic at play, which is a completely different experience. Again, it's like Michael Singer's Untethered Soul, sitting back in that seat of awareness and just seeing that the whole thing is a game and the whole thing is thought. So I like playing with those 1.0, 2.0. Been doing that quite a bit recently in coaching, playing in the thought world to one's own kind of advantage, so to speak, and then also standing back from the thought world and just getting the freedom that gives you.
Yeah, that's interesting, Chris. The only thing I would dispute around that is the language of make-up thought. Yet for creation, I would see that as tuning into thought. Your inner wisdom.
Yeah.
Your mind being quiet and you seeing thought, hearing thought, if you like.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's.
Yeah. I think you're spot on. I think making up thought that's authentic would be exactly that. It'd be tuning into universal thought. Yeah, completely agree.
Cool, nice one. I'm aware Dave, Linda, and Des don't speak. Sam, might have to, if you're all right to hang on for a little bit longer, I wouldn't mind looping back to you, Sam, and just talking a little bit about how you've created clients more recently, because that's a different way of doing it, which would be quite cool, I think, for Lisa to hear about. Dave, you wanted to say something, didn't you? Did you?
I think so.
Yeah.
It was so long ago.
I thought you're asking for permission to go to the loo, but which is fine as well.
You go to the toilet. It's too late now. I've already done it. It's really interesting around the 3P stuff, because when Peter started talking about it, I thought he was taking the P. But actually that whole kind of thought process has been really opened kind of my eyes to what's possible. And I'll freely call myself out that I'm probably still at that point of at the surface coaching. So it's looking at that problem which is there and offering solutions and maybe a bit more mentorship. But the idea of then going into that deeper coaching is really, really attractive. And I'm there's maybe a little bit of me which is just that little bit scared of exploring the 3Ps in more detail, because it's maybe it feels a little bit woo to me. I don't know. But there's been little bits which keep kind of trickling in. And I think if we're looking at thought as, for me, it's not reacting, it's creating instead. And it's taking the thought in my head and it's changing it into something else. And I certainly think when I'm serving kind of my clients, it's more around, okay, you have this problem in front of you, which you are looking at from this perspective with this thought. If I take you and move you here, how does it look now? What's possible from that space? And it's I suppose it's just changing them from reacting to whatever's going on to creating an alternative. And even just yesterday, we were at I was as a branch chair for the Birmingham Society of Chiropodists and Podiatrists, which is the least sexy organisation in the whole Western world, and it's less sexy than it sounds. We were having conversations at lunch, and there was a lot of the people there were talking about the problems they're having in their business. And just having conversations with them and asking them really bloody good questions, which they hadn't asked themselves, you could see that they'd suddenly went, oh. And a couple of them said, can we have a conversation with you? So it's doing something different. And I'm still conscious, like I said, I'm at surface at the moment. I'm not doing the deep coaching, and maybe I'm being a bit of a wuss that I'm not asking those difficult questions, because I'm more concerned about my thoughts and I'm in my own way. But it's certainly helping that process. And 3Ps has been really interesting. So I'm going to find out more about that anyway. Do you know any good 3Ps coaches?
We'll find them.
Cool. I think what's interesting, I know I joke about it in the group about how I've been talking about thought again, and it does keep happening. And it's sort of obviously this is seeping into me, because I found myself doing it again today. And it was, so we were in this training course I was delivering, and because it comes out, her bit was about identity as well. She changed from being, working in this job to going back and studying again. And she was having all this, like, really a crisis of identity and self-doubt. And it was interesting how I would have looked at it differently before, but because I've been polluted by the 3Ps, I started talking about it, because it's lovely. I'm starting to see it's just another way of looking at something, and in a way that it does make sense, because that's what it was clear. All she was doing really was, she's having these thoughts about, I'm not competent, I'm this and that, which was the feeling of inadequacy and this conflict around identity and comfort zone. So it has been actually really interesting about, how, and I know when I'm learning something is because I start talking about it or I find examples from it, and I think it is a very interesting way of exploring things with people.
I think you're right. It's another tool, isn't it? I mean, that's the key, is you don't have to throw everything else out. It's just another place to look at things from, which I found very useful. Deb, it doesn't have to be 3P stuff, Deb, but thoughts around either client creation, objection service, apprenticeships?
I think the client creation side of it, I mean, just from my own experience really, is, and we've talked about this before, is around, so for me it's, I want to work through referrals for, reasons we've covered before, so time and quality really. And so you know, I think it's about using your networks, isn't it? I mean, I've talked about it in the group a lot around, you know, connecting with people close to you and building your network that way, and having those conversations. Because I think it's probably fair to say we've all been through periods where we've been uncomfortable about kind of approaching people that we know and talking about the fact that we're coaching. And you know, there's a part of you that doesn't want it. You're just like, you know, you don't want people to think you're kind of hitting on them. And it's kind of getting over that, really, and just remembering that there are people that want, you know, there are plenty of people out there, including the people really close to you, who really, you know, really need help and have never thought about coaching, never had the opportunity to talk about it. And I think it's really important to talk about it and to just get out there, really. So I'm talking to myself, obviously.
I'm going to say a few words about, maybe for Lisa's benefit, about the creation of your client, the doctor, recently. Maybe just a few words on how that.
My dog's just crept in here then and frightened me to death.
I thought it was a client that was trying to crawl out of your house after session.
Oh no, it's little Arthur. Yeah, well, I mean, I met her through work, and we just got on really well. And you know, we were just chatting one day after a meeting, and she was talking about kind of some of the things that she dreamed about doing, and some of her, I wouldn't even say frustrations really, but just some of what she'd been through herself, and issues around confidence as well. And of course, you know, we've got this kind of, we often think of people in, you know, really high-powered jobs. How can they possibly be lacking in confidence if they're in these kinds of jobs, which is complete bullshit, as we know. And so yeah, I just basically told her what I did when I wasn't doing the day job, and I, you know, I just said, I because I particularly, there's people with a certain energy I really like to work with, and she's one of them. So I was just really upfront with her, and I just said, you know, I'd love to give you a session. And so I gifted her a session, and she took it. And from that, you know, we got together a few times, and I was very clear that, you know, if she could, you know, if she wanted to work with me, that was fine. And if she didn't, that was fine. I had no kind of, no expectation at all. And yeah, I just kind of made a proposal, third session in, and she accepted, and I think we're month 3 at the moment. So yeah, and from that, there's 2 of her colleagues that she's talked to about me and about her work with me, and she's gifted them sessions. So that's how I work, really, and that works for me, because you know, for me it's really important that people have the experience of me. I think you're asking for a lot of commitment. You know, I've worked, like in hypnotherapy, I worked where you're giving, you know, you're working with people on an ad hoc basis, really. You might recommend they have so many sessions, but essentially it's they turn up when they turn up. And I don't want to work like that anymore. I want commitment. And so, you know, and I'm really upfront with that, you know, upfront about that with the people that I work with. Yeah, it works really well. So.
That's one of the best descriptions of referral systems I've ever heard, to be honest. That's brilliant. Yeah, because it is. It's very natural, isn't it?
I think that's the key. I think that is the key. It's just be natural, isn't it? Just be yourself. Be passionate. You know, if you're passionate about what you do, you're just naturally talking about people. And I know, you know, so many times people, friends and all, have said, you know, God, your face really lights up when you talk about coaching and when you talk about, you know, clients, obviously in a confidential way. But that's because I love it. So, like, why wouldn't I sparkle?
Exactly. Bit of Deb Sparkle.
Dave
messaged me saying I have actually got a serious comment about public speaking, which is, well, it's probably might be the first time we ever got a serious comment from Dave, so I think we better make the most of it.
I was going to say, actually, my face lights up, get too close.
Oh, he's going to stop breaking up then.
Oh, you broke up, Dave?
Oh, was that like the best joke of the evening? Oh, damn.
Your face lights up when you're close to what?
Too close to the fire.
Ah, very good.
I'm here all week. Yeah, speaking, when I started my kind of speaking thing last year, I actually did something called the Speak Up Challenge, and I did 2 different. So I did like a beginner's one and an advanced one, and I found out very quickly that the only way it was going to work for me was if I just told stories which were very personal and ones which were almost like coaching myself on stage, and it made a massive difference. But one of the other things I'd say about public speaking is don't discount video and social media. Use that to your advantage, because even the smallest amount of speaking on social media or pieces to camera or, interviews, that kind of thing with people, even though you sit there and not doing much to start off with, bank builds up over time, becomes a really big repository, and it's content for other things as well. So don't just think of it as standing on stage and talking. Think of it as other ways in which you can speak and be seen.
That actually was very sensible and valuable.
There you go. That's I'm glad to be here for TSBOC 4, just to offer that one point, and normal service will be resumed later.
One of the things I definitely wanted Sam to talk about was obviously Manoj isn't here tonight, and Manoj has known me through various courses and programs since 2012. He's an IT specialist in the financial industry, and the way that he started progressing to coaching, he sort of explored the one-on-one space and didn't get a huge amount of traction there, but then he started to create a group around something that he's an expert on, which is investing, particularly investing in the stock market. And he created something called the Gym of Wealth. I used to have a program called Gym of Greatness. That's fine. I gave him permission to rip me off a bit. And it's interesting, he had something more tangible to create a group around. And that's where he started. And that's interesting now. I don't know whether it's hanging out with us lot, but the amount of inner work that Manoj has done the last few months is stunning, really. And he's moving into really quite a different place now, which I think will really help his one-to-one. But if there was one person I'd direct you at, Lisa, in terms of how to interact with online groups, probably Sam would spring to mind. So Sam, would you just talk a little bit about some of the stuff that you've been doing? So I think it's a really, really nice template.
Yeah, sure. Have we finally decided on Manoj? We're not Manoush or Manjo.
It's meant to be Manoj, but Manoj is about as close to most of us get.
So yeah, I mean, I think just to give a bit of background, for me, client creation, at least selfishly, is about me, how I want to create clients. And for me, the meaning behind how I create my clients, or most of my clients, is so I can spend time with my family. Because I never saw my dad when I was a kid, so I want to spend as much time with my son as I possibly can. I've only got one, and I might only ever have one, so I want to spend as much time with my family as possible. So there was that, and then in the early days, I couldn't afford coaching. I didn't have any money. I really didn't. I didn't have any money for coaching. So my creative mind was like, okay, how can I self-coach, or how can I have coaching without paying for it? So the idea behind what I started to do was, well, if I set up a group, because I love sharing information, I just love sharing and helping and creating insight for people. So if I create a group and I read and learn as much as I possibly can and then share it, that'll help me create insight there. And it worked. It started to really work. And so I have my Facebook group, which I just love. I do a live every Sunday, and I get a lot of work through that. Every couple of months, I would just, when I've got space in my practice, I'll just say, look, hands up who feels like they want to work with me for 6 months and is willing to actually pull their finger out and do some work. And I always get 1 or 2 people. I always get 1 or 2, and at least one will sign up, which is kind of a nice, kind of predictable way to create a client. And in my mind, I was kind of, I'm kind of fumbling around in the dirt a little bit doing that. I'm not going to have very many high-paying clients, which turns out to be bullshit, because there are many, many people out there who just absolutely love the idea and get involved with personal development. So that has been a really good source for me. The main source of client creation has definitely come through referrals. I mean, I would say almost 80% of my client creation this last year or so have been referrals. And the other thing is, being in other people's Facebook groups has been so valuable to me. There are 2 clients particularly, both of which I've invited to coaching conversations that have signed up. One's for 6 months, the other one's now I've been working for since almost the beginning now. I've been working with a poor lady for about 15 months now. And she invited me in to be part of her business. And so I do a live in her Facebook group each week for 20 minutes and do a live, that was before this call tonight, I do a live on a Monday in another group, literally 15, 20 minutes, and just really add some value to people. And you generally will get a stream of client questions and people will want to know, and they get really curious, and pardon my French, but I fucking love that human nature of curiosity. So if I feel like I can help them, I'll invite them to a conversation and just serve and serve and serve, and without attachment, without need for outcome until it feels so right to just talk about working together and saying, do you know what? There is no reason for either of us to say no. Let's make this work. And yeah, so I'm not interested in going out networking and going to big events, and I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to enjoy doing my work from home, spend as little time doing it as possible so I can enjoy the rest of my time doing cool shit and spending time with my family. So that is really kind of the ins and the outs of how I kind of create clients, basically.
I love that clear alignment with just doing stuff you really love. You know, as well as having 10 out of 10 clients, it's proper 10 out of 10 ways in terms of creating value and sharing that value. It's like I proper love doing this, as opposed to I feel like I should because it will create clients, which is massively different.
It just sucks the life out of you doing that. I mean, I think, you know, Pete will really agree with this. I think it's just stepping out of your own way, putting aside all the stuff you believe should and shouldn't be and all that kind of rubbish, and just really living in that space of this is what I want. And people naturally find you. Your 10 out of 10s are the people you end up having conversations with because they see you show up as a 10 out of 10. You know, because you can't show up as a 5 out of 10 and kind of just fumble your way through and can't really be asked. You're not going to get 10 out of 10. You know, it's a reflection of yourself. So, yeah, that's it.
Thanks, mate. And Peter's going, yep.
That's right. It just brought to mind something about, I think it was Sid Banks said, didn't he, about, he was joking about some a marriage guidance kind of, you know, coach who'd been married 5 times or something. And he was kind of joking about that. And someone asked him about, how do you coach if you're not happy? And he kind of said, well, you shouldn't be coaching, which is pretty much right, really, I think. You know, if your life's a mess, it's pretty hard to coach, isn't it? And if you don't have that passion for what you're doing, then it's pretty hard to coach.
Yeah, I think certainly you should be able to access happiness for sure. Yeah, not necessarily all the time because we're human, but yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. So what does happiness mean? I suppose you could.
But don't ask that question. That 10 minutes past the end of our time, repeat.
The wheelbarrow's on its way out, isn't it? So.
Yeah. So thanks for that, Sam. And also one thing I want to call out is just the way in which you've taken. I remember, you know, our early conversations and the way in which you've taken stuff from our conversations and also TSBOC 3 and just applied it. So credit to you.
Well, yeah, I mean, you guys the last little thing I'd say is that with the TSBOC and our conversations is that kind of really got me kind of growing very quickly, you know, really deeply implementing. And actually then it was the mentoring side of it for the apprenticeships and just that, it was my personal development that really helped in the group which the group helped me with, all of you did or have, which is why I signed up again.
Great. Very pleased you have.
So am I. And the rest of you.
Don't sound that convinced.
Rich can pay for his Jag now.
Yeah, it's coming soon, isn't it?
Mondeo.
90 days.
Yeah, with a different badge. So, Lisa, do we answer your questions?
No.
You're in.
You're going to fit in perfect.
You're in.
Welcome to TSBOC 4.
She's in. She's fine.
Yeah, no, it's been really useful because it feels like everybody's on the same page, but has got different strengths in different areas, brings different, I don't know, what's the expression, different strings to the bow. Is that the right expression?
No.
So whatever it is, I'll just make up a new expression. But it feels
Just
like
a thought either way.
What's that?
It's just a thought either way.
It's just a thought, yeah. No, it feels like I'll be able to learn a lot from everybody in this group, and I feel like I've had experiences that I'll be able to share as well that will hopefully be beneficial to you guys too. Some of the stuff that you were talking about with thought, like my brain was whirring the whole way through this, so it's like trying to process everything and absorb it all and then kind of make sense of it as well. So I'm sure when I go away, I'll get a ton more insights just from this conversation alone. But definitely when you were speaking, it was like I was relating stuff back to my clients and what comes up from them and how I show up as well. So it's all just kind of whirring away at the moment in my mind, but it's all been really good, useful stuff. So thank you.
Right. Simmering is the word.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's simmering, Chris. I think it's like boiling.
All right. Well, maybe it's time to turn the heat down a bit. I thought it'd be good to just finish going around sharing maybe a single insight that you've had from your coaching careers so far. So a single insight. Doesn't have to be, put the pressure on and be the biggest insight, but just an insight that you think is useful. Maybe I'll start.
Yeah, given you've asked a really deep question.
give you a bit more thinking time.
Chris is literally sitting there the whole call going. Question, right. Here's the model answer, and then I'll drop everyone else in it. Go on, mate. You better be good now. Now you set that up.
Yeah, that's right. I think my biggest insight is a personal one, and that's just permission to go for it. When I realised, and I'll give credit to Michael Serwer here. Actually, watched some videos of his quite some years ago now, when I saw him speak, and what he said is the opportunities are just there, and I decided to take them. And they're true. Service opportunities are just there every single where. There's 7, 8, whatever billion people on this planet. There's masses and masses of service opportunities, and that's been a transformation for me, is just deciding, well, somebody's got to do that work. Why shouldn't it be me? Why not? And then just go in for that. So that's my insight, permission to just go for it and serve.
My insight is when you work with quality, the whole game becomes a lot easier. So, that looking for that quality 10 out of 10 client, and as Sam said, that's much easier when you show up 10 out of 10. The whole game becomes ridiculously easy. Yeah.
I can go next if you want.
Yeah,
cool.
So it follows a similar vein, but mine was really around when you look at it from coming at a how can I serve you perspective, it becomes then everything is about the person in front of you, and you just totally get out of your own way because it's never about you then. So you can say the stupid things, you can ask the stupid questions because you're not even thinking about that. You're just genuinely focusing on what would be the best thing for the person in front of you.
Yeah, it's good.
I'll go next. Because it's that whole thing about just being the lamppost, and that most people don't have someone in their life that will just listen completely and absolutely to them and be fully present for them. And if all you do is that, then you've done something very significant.
I think mine, if you don't mind me sharing mine, I probably would have said something different last year, but mine is just not giving yourself permission to, or being okay with, but absolutely fall in love with making a complete clusterfuck of stuff and messing up, doing things that, going through your coaching practice, making mistakes, and just enjoy the hell out of what that brings. Because that's where, for me at least, where I've enjoyed most, if not all of my experiences have been in that space where I thought, God, I feel like I can't do this, but then you do it anyway. And that, how that resonates throughout the rest of your life, not just your coaching practice, is absolutely massive. So just enjoy making mistakes.
Any answer with the word clusterfuck in there's got to go.
Sorry, I keep forgetting this is going public. Sorry, lads. Sorry, not sorry, actually.
Never say sorry if you're not sorry, Sam.
I'm never sorry, Sonia.
Except when the wife is involved, right?
Right, I've got 10 minutes before my call, so you've got
go on then.
go.
Yeah, I've got two here. The first one to repeat what Chris said earlier, that coaching is really simple. It's just show up and deal with what shows up. And if we try and make it more complicated than that, we get ourselves into trouble. And the second one is, and this is connected with coaching simple when your grounding is sorted. So for me, the game absolutely changed when I could 100% see that my feelings are 100% created by my thoughts and not by circumstances. And that absolutely changes the game with clients. If clients can see that, and a lot of clients resist that because you're turning the world upside down. But when clients can absolutely see that, the whole world changes. And it's a massive shift from 99% to 100%.
Huge, yeah. Love that. Deb or Dave? DD.
I'll go next then. I still don't want to be last. So I think obviously, yeah, what everyone said, and I think for me, it's just remembering actually that how much fun you can have with coaching, how much fun you can create for your clients. Not just for you, but definitely for them, and how much fun relates to creativity. And you can create anything you want. You can just make it a game. Yeah.
Gamification. Chris is going to give you a gold star for that. Right, Dave.
Is it me? Is it me?
Dave James.
You've orchestrated this, Dave. You've got the last word tonight.
Well, you did want me to stand up at the end of the call anyway, didn't you, with the welcome message for TSBOC 4?
Yes.
Yeah, might do that later. What have I learned from my coaching so far? I've learned that I'm enough, and it's really cool to just come from that space and see what happens. Just going to stand up now. You ready?
No. Turn away.
Please be upstanding.
Don't think our insurance policy covers us, Dave.
You're going to show off your TSBOC tattoo, though?
Yeah, hold on a moment.
Oh, dear.
It's in two parts.
Well, thanks to everyone for coming on the call. Obviously, it's good for you all to meet Lisa, but thanks all for your input as well. Yeah, I mean, I was saying to Chris today, it's the favourite thing that I do. Basically, my outcome. When I was looking at my future business plans, I'm like, how can I do more stuff like this? Was basically my focus. So
it evens up the female energy a little bit more. There's been too many men and not enough women.
There we go. Yeah.
And it's just been International Women's Day, and the theme was balance for better. So here we are.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Just assume my gender, Linda.
Yeah, Sam identifies differently.
What's that? The expression something binary or something, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Binary, that's right.
No, with that beard, Sam, I'm afraid there's no doubt.
I don't know, he could be from Dudley.
Right. Well, I've got to scoot now because I've got to prep for a client. But yeah, thanks everyone. If you're watching the video and you think this might be of interest to you as well, just give me or Chris a shout, and we'll get you in the cult.
Put you in the wheelbarrow.
Get you on a call, or was it get you in the cult?
Get you into the cult. Yeah, through a call. Yeah. Got to be honest, haven't we? Really.
Yeah.
Transparency is everything. All right, folks. You got anything else to say, Chris?
No, thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks. Thanks for all your contributions. Welcome, Lisa, and
welcome.
Rich and I will speak and sort out details for TSBOC 4 and dates and all that will come through. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool
team. Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.